Hey there, folks, and welcome back. We just got some snow and our trails finally open, so that means we were able to take our Liquifire out for a test ride, test out our new suspension, and that works really good, but we got some other issues going on. She was bogging pretty bad. I'll get into what I found as I tested it out yesterday for the first time. As I was riding, it would take off pretty good, and we'd have good response up until about like 3/4 throttle, and anything above that she would just bog down and only be at like 7,000 rpm, maybe 6 if it would make it there. And if you feathered the throttle just right, you could get her to light up, but not very good. So I decided to stop and check the spark plugs. Now this is the first set I had in it yesterday, and as you can see, that's some pretty good color. And these are the plugs from last year, nothing new. I can get them to focus here, but my one little concern is on this PTO side plug. You can see there's that little spot of white starting on the ceramics, so that was kind of concerning, especially being that these were uneven a little bit. The worst case scenario goes through my head, and that's that we got a bad PTO crank seal. So I toss in this new set of plugs so that way hopefully I can get a clean reading on what's going on with our fuel mixture here. And as you can see, that one's pretty snow white. I mean, there's no color on that at all to speak of. And I got about 10 miles on these plugs, so there should be plenty of time for them to do anything. They are both just white as can be. That's super, super lean. So what these plugs are telling me is that we really have a fueling issue, and as on these 10 miles, it was bogging. It was getting progressively worse, and yeah, it was just not having a good time. Anything above over like 6,000 RPM. Now let's go through the process of elimination here. So we know it's affecting both cylinders now. That rules out really being a crank seal, and these things are notorious for blowing mag seals. But I've resealed this engine maybe 3 years ago. I don't have 300 miles on this sled or this engine build, so it shouldn't really be that. Next, we come to our carburetors, and we got two carburetors, so it's possible that when only one of them was showing it, we got a jet plugged up or something, but it's on both of them. That's very, very unlikely that we plugged up both carburetors at the same time. The other thing with the carbs is our throttle cable could have gotten out of sync, but nothing is loose. Generally, you'd be seeing a loose little adjuster nut down here or something. None of that's happening. And this happened like the first time I went out after the summer, so nothing really should have changed. So that leads me to believe that we are not getting fuel either from the tank, we're sucking air, there's a clogged fuel filter, or we're not pulsing enough to actually move the fuel pump diaphragms and pump the fuel. And I've already rebuilt that fuel pump down there. So let's just do a quick little visual inspection of stuff around here and see what we can find. It's also worth noting that I have very little gas in the gas tank. It's well below our little pickup tube there. You can see it hiding in here. So the fuel pump would have to draw it out and up over that to push to the carbs. But if we look inside our gas tank here, the pickup line is rather old, and I don't know if I can get the camera to look at it. The little fuel filter on the end is clean as can be. Then I come down here and I'm looking. I want to see if there's fuel in this line. And if we can focus on it, you can see there's an air bubble. And I think we just found our culprit because there's not supposed to be any air in this line at all. I've never replaced the fuel lines in this sled before because they were pretty new when I bought it, but it's kind of crappy, cheap Raider fuel line from Fleet Farm. So it looks like that's going to be on the agenda for today. I think the problem is we were sucking air, like one of these little lines is cracked or the fitting isn't tight on the barb. So we were pulling air and not feeding enough fuel into the carbs to actually have the right level in the carbs at full throttle. One of the symptoms was that if it idled for a little while, it would take off fine and then kind of fall on its face. So we've got a new fuel pickup strainer with a little check valve inside. A grommet for the gas tank because I did kind of notice that was leaking before when I put gas in it to go start. And a fuel filter because we're doing the entire system. We're going to put a new fuel filter on anyways. Let's get at it. On this sled, the fuel lines really aren't too bad to get to. Little minor disassemblies required. I'm going to take this air hose off and probably the air box just to give us more room to wiggle around. And our fuel pump lives like right under here, so we should have no problem get to any of the other stuff. And yeah, my hand will fit in here just fine. Oh, hey, look at that. I got a broken wire. That would be why my heated grips weren't working. So I guess we'll fix that too. Now that that's out of there, we should be able to start taking our pliers and just pulling these lines off here. And they are definitely stuck on there. That's pretty hard fuel lines. Oh, yeah, that's not good. So I'll get all the other ones off and we'll try and get that tank out of there. So I've got the hair dryer going just to try and heat this little rubber piece up, and all we're gonna do is take and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle and pull, working it out, and look at that, it's popped right out. And this bushing here is definitely shot. You can see it's ripped right open. Focus. So at least we'll be replacing that and getting some decent fuel line in here now, not this cheap Fleet Farm stuff. Now for going back together, you're going to want to assemble it like so, about a foot of fuel line for the pickup tube. Just press your little filter check ball thing down on there. And we're going to take the bend part goes down into the tank, so it'll sit like this. And you want to make sure you put this little rubber grommet on there, but don't push it up onto this part yet. That's what's going to expand and seal it to our tank. And you'll never get this grommet in the tank if you push it up here. Okay, so I've got it heated up. We can press it into the tank here. Work it. Sometimes they do that. Okay, we want our angly bit down, and then that should work down into our hole. Okay, we've got her flush. Then I'm going to pull this back out a little bit. And now lubrication is your friend. I'm just going to squirt a little WD-40 on here. And that helps. Press it in like so. And we need to go all the way up to this flange. Just like that. Nice and tight. And if I look down in the tank, the fuel pickup is sitting right on the bottom. So that is success. Now we just have to rebuild the rest of the lines. There we go, new green fuel lines installed. And I did take and put actual hose clamps on all of our joints because we didn't have those before. So that's a possible leakage area. I think we're ready to throw the airbox back in and give this thing a test ride. Hopefully we can get it to start now with just the fuel that's in the carbs. And just one final check. Looks like we've got good color on both of our spark plugs. So guys, looks like our problem today was just that easy. We just needed some new fuel lines. It must have been sucking some air from like one of the fittings since we didn't have any hose clamps. I didn't see any breaks in the line at all. But sometimes it's just that easy. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.